Hi, I've come on to introduce another deck. It's a tarot deck this time. It's the Guardian of the Night Tarot by MJ Cullinane, who is also the creator of the Crow Tarot. I really like this deck, I should say. I've already looked through it, got to know it a little bit and used it a couple of times. To begin with, it's a great box. I love a good box that doesn't take up too much room and that will tolerate being carried around in my bag, which this one does quite happily. Easy to open, though it doesn't come apart, or it hasn't yet while it's in my bag, which is a good thing. Inside you get the guidebook. I take that out. You get your cards held together, not by plastic, but by a piece of paper. I can get rid of that now. It's a really nice cardstock. The cards are all matte, bendy and thick, quite relatively big cards. They're made by Hay House, who make loads of cards, and they tend to be, I found, this kind of size. It's quite a hefty deck, more hefty than some of their other decks, as it is a tarot deck rather than an oracle deck. So has 78 cards, if I remember rightly. It's good. I like it. I like the cards slightly larger because it gives lots of space for the beautiful images, but some people with smaller hands might find it a little tricky to shuffle, but then you just adapt, don't you? You can just even go so far as to just put them all over the floor and mess them up a bit, which I like to do occasionally anyway. Okay, to the cards. First of all, the back of every card is beautiful. I really like this imagery, and as we can spend quite a lot of time looking at the backs of cards when we do tarot readings, it's nice to have something beautiful to look at. And the cards themselves, I thought I would start by showing you one card and spending a bit of time thinking about it and looking at it. That is the Fool, the first card in the Major Arcana. As with all the cards, there are animals in it. She's used at least one animal for every card. In this instance, it's several animals, but two different animals, as in a wolf and a rabbit. Just to give a bit of context, I'm going to contrast this with a more traditional Rider-Waite version of the Fool. There are loads of variations on this, but they're all roughly like this. And you can see, yeah, it's a different image, obviously, but there's also quite a difference in energy. There is a big overlap in the meanings, but there's something that the author has brought to this, which I quite like. And it also begs the question, why, if you've got already got a tarot deck that you use and you like me with my Rider-Waite, which I do like a lot, keep coming back to, and I've got to know very well, why on earth would you get another deck? Well, it's partly if you're interested in and really like decks like I do, then it's just really interesting and nice to get to know what other people can bring to them. So in terms of their illustrations, in terms of the meanings that they give to them, it's fun, it's interesting, but it also, every time I come across another tarot deck, it adds to my understanding of these cards. So for instance, with this one, she tells the story in the guidebook of how both the wolf and the rabbit have their goals in terms of setting out across this ice, which you can see is cracking a little bit under the wolf's feet. But while the wolf has faith that the ice will hold his weight, the rabbit has faith that its greater speed and lightness will act in its favour. And both of them may be perceived as pretty foolish by the other animals watching from the bank. So the overlap is this idea of blind faith. I guess this one is more aligned to blind faith, as he's not really looking where he's going, is he? And he has faith that when he moves over the edge of that cliff, all will be well. So it's a different interpretation of that. And in addition to this sort of double two aspects of this character here, she also in the guidebook adds the characteristics of the animals that she's using in each card. So in this one, there is the wolf, which represents family, reliance, hope, teamwork, and confidence, and the rabbit, which represents abundance, reproduction, open, creativity, and luck. There's something else in the guidebook I wanted to share with you. This is only for the major arcana, but for each of those, she adds a particular question that one might ask if that card comes up in a reading. So for instance, for the Fool, we've got, are you letting the fears or opinions of others prevent you from taking a leap of faith? I really like that. It's a different perspective. The concept of other isn't really present in this card. So I like it. It's you can see there's something extra in this. I'm going to the guidebook and showing you roughly how much text you get for each card. And I was reminded of a question that she puts to herself if she ever gets a Fool in a reading. Am I overthinking my next move? The Fool asks that you let go of the need to control every aspect of a situation, allow events to unfold, and if something appears different than how you expected, perhaps it will turn out to be a pleasant twist as you make your way on a new endeavour. That gives you a bit of the sense of the style of her interpretations and guidance. Right, let me show you a few more of the cards. Now, those of you already familiar with tarot cards, whether it's the Rider-Waite or others, it may seem to you obvious or just like, oh yes, I can see why she chose that animal for that card. And if it doesn't, then there's something in the guidebook, if not for every card, then for the most cards, at least, that explains her choices. And I should also say that there's, for those who have never used tarot before, there's enough here. It's a very rich deck. The interpretations and the guidance is good. Some of them come with a nice story. She explains, for instance, her relationship with rats and how the rat ended up being representing the Hierophant there. Okay, so we'll just jump to a bit later on in the Major Arcana because I really just wanted to show these. I love them. Right, I also wanted to point out that in some decks I've come across, there is a great deal of attention paid to the Major Arcana and less to the other cards. Not so in this deck. There is equal attention paid to every card. I thought I'd just show you the Kings and Queens, which are the same animal in every case. There you've got the cups, the element of water, the element of earth for pentacles. The page and the knight, incidentally, are not the same animals. Element of air. And then the element of fire with the wands. So they are rather lovely and quite a lot of symbolism in each card. So whether you, even if you choose not to use the guidebook, there's a lot to work with here. And I'm going to show you a couple more. This one, just because I really like it. This one, which is in the Rider-Waite, illustrated by a pair, two people holding cups. It's similar but different, and that's what I love. There are a couple here I wanted to spend a little bit more time on. There's this one, the Three of Swords, which is a really visceral illustration, especially when compared to the ways one might be more familiar with seeing that. And I kind of like it. It pulls you physically almost. And this isn't always a bad card. This can refer to betrayal and heartache and so on. And she's chosen the elephant tusks, incidentally, if I hope I remember it rightly, partly connected with the idea of the betrayal of elephants by humans in their relationship, in the way that we have treated them. As we have, stolen their tusks, basically, killed them. So that's something you may like, that you may not like at that. I think there's something very relatable with this use of animals, something very physical, while the Rider-Waite may feel more cerebral. Another one I wanted to compare is death. So here we've got the much more traditional kind of depiction of death. And here we have death also And death, incidentally, it's one of those cards that sometimes people get a bit frightened of, like, oh, I don't want to have death in my spread. None of the cards are ever something to be frightened of. Death usually, for the most part, vastly, oh, I've been speaking too long, haven't I? For the most part, definitely signifies change, the end of something, whether that's a relationship, a situation, a belief even, to make way for something new. And I really like what she says about her illustration here. So what is it? I think it's a rat, yes, that has been got by the owl. And the rat previously was here, where it initially felt very safe, but you can see all the thorns there. So the place that it thought was safe actually ended up feeling a bit more like a cage or a prison, right? So so that was, this situation has ended up as a very definite ending for the rat. But there's, like I said, there's a lot in these. Were there any others that I particularly wanted to show you? I think no, I have spoken for long enough. And what I might often do when I'm introducing a deck like this is end with a short reading. But I felt this time I've had quite a lot to say, and also it's the 13th of September. It's only days after the death of Queen Elizabeth. There are a lot of emotions, a lot of energy swirling around everywhere. It feels like this needs the space and time to give to a reading on its own. So, in conclusion here, it's a great deck, lots to work with, and thank you, MJ Cullinane, for bringing it into the world. Right, thanks for watching. Bye for now.